Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on Ace of the Diamond, Season 2, Episodes 37, 38, and 39. Oh my gosh. So, we won against Seiko. It's over. And now we're watching Ichidai versus Yakushi. And I'll be honest, I'm really excited about this matchup because in the last episode, I thought, going into this, I was like, how much of a threat is Kosei going to be? He's pretty threatening. Yeah, he's pretty threatening. And so he's not going to let Yakushi just run away with it. Like, even though Raichi got that home run, Kosei wasn't deterred by it, and Kosei showed that he could kind of corner Todoroki a little bit. So I'm like, okay. And so far we've had Akiba and Mishima be our catcher and pitcher duo, but I don't know if they're going to be enough for each time. We might have to bring old Sonata out. I'm ready for old Sonata to come out into the game because I like Sonata a lot. But yeah, so this is the semifinal game to determine who's going to face Sato. So I want it to be Yakushi, but I don't know. It may be. It's questionable because after that big, that big reunion they had where Sato was like, where Yakushi was like, we're going to face you, Sato, and it'll be a rematch. I'm like, the last couple times we've had a team do that, they've not won. So I'm going to feel kind of bad if Ichidai loses because they lost when they thought they were going to match up against Sato in the past. And if they lose in this again, it's going to be like, Ichidai's just not meant to face Sato. That just may be it. But I'm recording a little bit ahead. Episodes 34, 35, and 36 are going to come out tomorrow on Patreon, but I need to record a little bit ahead, so I just decided to record ahead tonight and just go ahead and do the next 3 episodes. So if you had comments about episodes 34, 35, and 36, I'll probably address them in the next set of episodes and go from there. But yeah, Ochiai hasn't been slimy lately. It feels kind of weird. Furuya and Sawamura seem like they're getting along fine. Furuya went to the hospital. I feel like Miyuki should have gone to the hospital, but he didn't. So I'm like, if that comes back to bite y'all, I'm going to have words with you, Miyuki. Miyuki saved the day in the last of episodes, but I'm like, dude, even though you were the hero of the game, you still need to go to the hospital because I'm pretty sure that Ogawa hurt you pretty badly. So, but in any case, I'm excited to see what's going to happen between Yakushi and Ichidai. I like seeing other teams face each other on here. It keeps things fresh because it's not just Sato versus every team, and it doesn't get repetitive, and you get to see different team coaching styles and different dynamics face off against each other. Although Ichidai's coach is just, he always is the like my boy, like all that, and Todoroki, I freaking love him. It's great. So let's not waste any more time. I'm ready to dive in with y'all. So episode 37, we are going to start that here. Ace of the Diamond Season 2 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So, man, these episodes were great. I don't know if there's been a bad episode this season. It just hit me all of a sudden. We were doing that montage at the end. This second season has gone by surprisingly fast. And I think it's because, granted, season 1 was 75 episodes. 75, and this is 51. So it's a good, fourth smaller than season 1 was. But when you look at that montage at the end, it's gone by really fast. And I was like, man, it seems like just yesterday that Sawamura had the yips and we were just, half facing Yakushi for the first time. And since Inashiro won and now we're facing him again, I don't know, y'all. I don't know. This really could go either way. There's a part of me that's like, oh, they'll make it to nationals. And then there's another part of me that's like, no, they're not. So I'm like, and it goes either way. I'm like, it's funny because we build up Yakushi and Sato in the last episode, in episode 39. It could go either way. It wouldn't surprise me if Sato wins, and it wouldn't surprise me if they lose. Up until this point, I figured that Sato was gonna beat Seiko. They were gonna beat him because it's been built up it's a great bookend. You start out with Sato versus Yakushi at the beginning of the season when Sawamura is going through all his troubles, and then you end the season with I want Sawamura to pitch in the last game and face Raichi. I want Sawamura to get Raichi out. That's all I want to happen. I want Sawamura to get him out and just to see it happen. I can totally, I don't know, we'll talk about Furuya's involvement in all this. Miyuki probably bothers me more than Furuya at this point. We'll talk about this why. But man, I had lots of notes. I had lots of notes. I had a full page and then the backside of another, which I kind of goofed on this one because I was so focused on Yakushi in this last part here. I totally get the Sanada Raichi ship. It is the most bizarre ship in sports anime history, but I get it. It's we're gonna talk about Sanada. Interesting. Okay. Man, these episodes. All right. So episode 37 about priorities. And the idea of, so Sanada's the ace. I don't know why I doubted it. I think because he was number 18 last season. But describing him as a rough pitcher. And so we start out this entire set of episodes at the bottom of the third. And Ochiai, he kind of is growing on me in a weird way. I think the last two sets of episodes, he's backed off from being sleazy. And in this set of episodes, he's self-aware and open about him wanting attention. And him and Katioka worked surprisingly well in this set of episodes. I'm like, I feel like I'm in Bizarro World because I usually don't like Ochiai. And I'm like, why are you being this way? This is weird that you're self-aware. I think Katioka's comment maybe brought him up to speed, and we'll get to that. But him just standing behind Rei and Katioka and being like, I really just wanted y'all to notice. Like, the fact that he stood there until someone noticed him is creepy. But Rei's like, you gonna come sit down or what? Like, I love that. So I like the idea that they're debating on whether or not to walk Raichi. Because Raichi, I like that he's described as a monster batter. He's a slugger. And yeah, Raichi is terrifying, swinging 500 times a day. The hell. But Ochiai, he eats his words a little bit, because at the beginning Ochiai is like, well, this team Yakushi, they're really nothing without Todoroki. And I'm like, this team is like subtly good. Like, Sanada and Raichi stand out, but it kind of drives their team to be better because they all want to do just as good as Sanada and Raichi. And so, yeah, that whole phrase of it's just Todoroki carrying the team, it is not. It is not just him carrying the team. But, and then Raichi getting out because he was too greedy. He just kept running the bases. So I like that we show that Raichi is not perfect. He does get out. He does strike out. He does get called out at base. He does make mistakes. I freaking love Raichi. I'm going to gush about him in this discussion. But I like that throughout this entire game, Sawamura is watching, and give our boy credit. He is trying to find a way to pitch against Raichi. He wants to strike Raichi out. He wants to do exactly what Kosei did, but he's got to be cautious because we'll talk about Kosei and all of this. He's got to be cautious because the Ichidai coached that word. There were some really great one-liners in this episode. Some really good ones. But Sawamura just thinking. I like, because as I've said in previous episodes, Sawamura is a sunshine character. And usually you have a bubbly, bright character. You don't think of them... Like, Raichi is also a sunshine character. Raichi is very, very simple. It is baseball. He eats... Raichi is more like Hinata from Haikyuu than Sawamura. Raichi and Hinata are very similar. They eat, breathe, sleep, their sport. Everything else is like, what are we even doing? Sawamura... He loves baseball, and it's definitely a huge part of his life, but it's not all-consuming, like he's thinking and strategizing. Raichi's just a monster, like a small, diminutive monster that Sanada's in love with, so it's great. But yeah, so Kosei reminds me a lot of Nabe, oddly enough. He reminded me a lot of Nabe in this episode, that he was like strategizing and thinking and watching the team, and he kind of reminded me of him, of that. But I like how Ichidai is framed, how they frame Kosei as the ace and as part of their team. Because the one member says that some don't like him. Despite Kosei's hard work coming back on the team, some of the team members were still not receptive because they're like, you left us. We still don't care for that you just came back and thought you could win yourself back on the team. And yeah, you've worked hard, but still, he makes the comment that this is something you do every day. And for him to give it up and then come back, it's like, it's not something that is easily fixable, that disconnect that was created when Kosei first left the team. But the player says at the same time, the team wants to work to turn him into a true ace. So despite some objections on the team, their end goal is the same. They want to turn Kosei into a true ace, which is pretty cool. So he's got the cutter. He had a two-seamer, which is the one that Sawamura wants to learn, and I think a shoot ball. I think that was the other one, or a slider. It might have been the slider. He did a lot of sliders in the last game. Did that. But Kosei, and Kosei is kind of on the same wavelength as his team. His team wants to build him up to be a true ace, and Kosei wants to give back for his team. Kosei's like, I know I left you guys, and I feel bad about it, so I want to earn my place back on the team. So I like that they're kind of all on the same wavelength. It's nice. It's a nice connection that they have, where Kosei isn't wanting to be like, Kosei's not like Mei. He's not a diva. Kosei isn't a diva. He's kind of odd, but he just wants to do the best that he can and do something by the team. And then Coach Todoroki, God, I freaking love the Todoroki family. Coach Todoroki crying over the third years coming to the game. That was great. And we get backstory with Sanada. And Sanada is like such a good-looking character. Like, he shows up in that last episode with a damn button-down and a blazer. I'm like, what sophomore in high school wears a button-down and a blazer? Like, right, she's over there in a tracksuit. That's more realistic, right? Not looking like a sports model. But yeah, I love that Sanada plays it so cool, and he's so calm and collected. But I love that we get this disconnect that Sanada is a totally different person on the mound than he is outside of the mound. He's kind of like Sawamura in that respect. Sawamura becomes a little bit more serious and composed on the mound than he's like a wild feral beast outside the mound, but sometimes, not always. But I like the idea of Sanada trying to skip practice and making it look like he ran, and Todoroki calls him out on it. He's like, oh, skipping practice, huh? But Coach Todoroki says that he's like, I did that too. He's like, I get where you're coming from. You just want to take it easy sometimes. He's like, I get that. And I like that Todoroki admits, he's like, the whole idea of effort and hard work and stuff, he's like, I always thought that was kind of a joke. But when you see somebody enact something every day, those habits kind of prove a point. And he looks specifically at his son Raichi as the prime example. He's like, my son is a creature of habit, and you can see the payoff of all that hard work. And it's like, the idea that all these little habits add up in the end. So he's like, you shouldn't make a habit out of not working, because then that's all going to add up as well. And you want it to add up in a positive way, not a negative way. So I really like that. And I like Sanada saying that Todoroki, he considered him more honest, and he had more respect for him than a textbook coach. And that tied for me directly to Kateoka and Ochiai. Todoroki and Kateoka are both coaches who are honest and connect to the team players and their hearts. Ochiai is the textbook coach. And yeah, the textbook coach may not be wrong, but the players are going to respect someone like Todoroki and Kateoka more because they speak to the actual players' hearts. It's like, I like that. I like that comparison. And Sanada saying that the Todoroki family changed the team's lives. They really did. And I like that Todoroki came to the team not expecting anything. Like, Todoroki started coaching. He's like, I just thought this would be some normal high school team, and I just wanted a job. He just wanted some money and a job. And he's like, I wasn't expecting anything. He's like, I know my son's great, so whatever team we join, he's going to elevate it. And it's like, and he does. Yeah, and Sanada, but he admits that Sanada is a rare find. Sanada was like the diamond in the rough. He's like, I wasn't expecting anything special with Yakushi, but Sanada is a good one. It's like, so good. I love it. I love it. And so then, yeah, we cut to the 8th inning where it's still 2-1. And I like that we get parallels with characters. We get Mishima. Mishima is kind of like Zono. Mishima is all about batting and wants to prove himself as a batter, like Zono. I like that comparison. And he gets hit by the ball. I thought that was really cool. Not that he got hit by the ball, but his thought process in the moment. He's like, oh, that ball's going to drop, so I'm not going to move, because if I move to get out of the way, it's a hit I could have made. And then it turns out that he makes the right call, that because he doesn't move, he gets hit. And that's the sign that Kosei is running out of steam in the 8th inning, which for him to pitch 8 innings is still really good. And he pitched all out. Like, he was going over 100 pitches. He was just going all out trying to get Raichi out, because that was his goal the whole game. He's like, I want to strike him out. I want to get him. He did. It just, what happened afterwards is the problem. So yeah, and I love that this line, God, these episodes are full of good one-liners, when Sanada's like, oh, there's a lot of pressure. He's like, I like that Todoroki intentionally put Raichi where he did, thinking that the other team would try to walk him. Like that whole time, because the whole time we're having this episode, Ochiai and Kataoka are having the conversation of, well, what would you do? Would you walk Raichi, or would you let him have a face-off? And Todoroki, the coach, is like, they're probably going to try to walk him, so this is how we're going to set it up. We're going to have Sanada go after him. So even if Raichi gets walked, or even if he gets out, we still got something else to rely on. And I love that line where Sanada's like, man, you're putting a lot of pressure on me. And Todoroki's like, pressure? Yeah, get real. You love this sort of stuff. It's like, I love that line. Like, you like the pressure. And then there's the mic drop at the end of episode 37 where Ochiai is like, he's like, do you go for the pride of the ace or do you go for the win? And I love that Kataoka says, he's like, well, you obviously logically want to go for the win, right? But our players aren't heartless chess pieces. We're not the ones out on the field. And it kind of ties to his whole thing with Furuya later on, which we'll get to. But man, and Ochiai's face when he says that is like, it's so good. So good. So yes, then we cut to episode 38, and leaving it to Kosei, the team makes the decision to let Kosei go with it. And in all honesty, I don't think that was a bad decision. I think that Kosei was having a really good game. And at first, when Kosei is like, why are you guys leaving all this to me? There's so much pressure. Aren't you afraid I'm going to mess up? At first, I thought he was having doubts because earlier Kosei is like, we got this. And we started talking at the beginning of episode 38. I thought he was maybe getting nervous, but no, it was sarcasm. He was like, nah, I'm getting fired up. You guys are putting all your pressure on me. I like it. And then we have the battle of instincts. Todoroki versus Kosei, and Kosei strikes him out. Heaven or hell. That was such a good line too. And Sawamura seeing that is so cool, because in that moment you see the light bulbs switch on for Sawamura, and he's like, I can get him out. It's possible. Because this whole tournament, Raichi has been such a monster, and everybody's been afraid of him. They're like, he's a monster slugger, he's this monster batter, and in that moment he gets struck out. Sawamura realizes, okay, Kosei is not a godlike pitcher. He's a genius according to his team, but he's not a godlike pitcher. He's just a pitcher. So Sawamura is like, I can do this. This can happen. And then, of course, we have ace versus ace. We have Sanada, the really good find, versus Kosei. And I love that Sanada, we cut back to him, and he's talking about how baseball was just casual fun for him, but it became an obsession. And that ties to Sawamura, because for Sawamura was like, baseball's fun, and I love to do it. But once he joined Sato, it became an obsession. And it's like, yeah, him and Sanada are very similar. Although, I would say that Sawamura had more ethic right off the bat, because he was determined to become the ace, whereas Sanada just kind of like, Raichi's the one that spurned him on, interestingly enough. But anytime that the pitcher and the catcher don't agree, that usually should spell trouble. And the moment that the catcher, and I forget his name, I didn't write it down, the moment the catcher was asking him to do a pitch and Kosei said no, I was like, you're setting yourself up for something bad to happen, because you're not trusting, the battery's not having trust with each other. And I kind of agree with the catcher. The catcher's like, let's play this safe. Let's do what we need to do and play it safe. Let's not rush. And the coach was even saying, don't rush the win. Play it out. You've got time. You have the lead. Kosei said himself, he's like, we've got the lead. We're fine. The coach was like, don't rush it. But Kosei was riding on such a high from getting Raichi out. And it was so close that he's like, oh, I can get him out. I'll get him out. We did 2 sliders and he struck. But he got greedy and he got too proud, and he was like, well, I'll just do a fastball and we'll get him out on that. And that's what Sanada was waiting for. And the coach is like, why are you rushing? And then, this line may be my favorite of all the episodes. In the shadow of victory is the specter of greed and attachment. And that kind of sums up a lot of this series so far, is that when you're riding on that high of victory or doing well, or you're just like caught up in victory, and in the shadow of it is the idea of greed and attachment. Like, you can't detach yourself from your pride, you can't detach yourself from your emotions, or you get greedy and it leads to your downfall. And it's like, yep, that's exactly what happens. And that's what Sonata was waiting for. And the moment Kosei gets replaced, even though the coach is like, the game's not over, go wash up and come back, doesn't do it. And 3-2 for Yakushi. The one pitch. That's the whole theme of this series. One pitch can change a whole game. It's terrifying, and I didn't realize in baseball how terrifying it was until watching this series. So, there we go. But yeah, oh man, so Miyuki, honey, just what have we got in here? The familiar, the better. So yeah, so we have, I'm trying to look at my notes here. So Miyuki has this conversation at the end of the game because the team looks kind of nervous about facing Yakushi. And I like that Miyuki says, he's like, oh no, this is good. He's like, either way, he's like, Ichidai or Yakushi, it was going to be a hard match. But we know Yakushi, so we have more info on them. So they should feel more familiar. But as we learn, Yakushi is a very unpredictable team. They are literally the definition of a wild card. They just do whatever and make it work. We're going to talk about Raichi being a damn pitcher. That guy, that like completely caught me off guard. I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? Maybe this has been mentioned before, but I feel like it hasn't. I'm like, you're bringing that out, that Raichi can pitch? So yeah. And then Kacchan. Kacchan is Tomba's friend from Ichidai. And I like that he establishes, he's like, I'm going to watch Kosei. Keep him off the ledge. Make sure he doesn't leave the team. And the team's like, well, he won't leave. And Kacchan's like, he might. He's that unpredictable. So I like that Kacchan's taking on the task of watching over him. And then, yeah, Ochiai admitting that Sonata deserved credit. And I agree with Ochiai. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm agreeing with him that, yeah, Sonata, he made the right call. He waited for the pitch that he wanted. And he got it. And then him and Kataoka leaving together, working together, I was kind of like Ray. I was like, this feels kind of bizarre. Okay, I guess we'll do this. It was interesting. But yeah, we can't think of what ifs. There are no what ifs in baseball. We could sit here all day and think about all the different possibilities, but the fact of the matter is what happened and what do we do with that info. So I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, you know what I don't love? Miyuki and his injury that he's not telling anybody about. That's going to become a problem in this final game. I'm just calling it now. It's going to become a problem. I'm like, Miyuki, your childhood idol is Chris Senpai. Chris Senpai, who had an injury and just thought it was nothing and brushed it off. And what did it do? It got worse. And yeah, you're just not saying anything. What happened with Rio? Did we learn nothing from Rio in the Inashiro game? Did we learn nothing? And I get where Miyuki's coming from. Miyuki's like, I'm the captain. I'm the best catcher on our team. It's the finals. He wants to go to nationals. But I'm like, but again, in the specter of victory is greed and attachment. And Miyuki is being greedy. He wants it so bad. And he's attached to that position as catcher. And I'm like, dude, you are setting yourself up to be like Rio in the Inashiro game and to have your injury flare up and it be a problem. And it's going to throw the team off. It's going to... That's why I'm nervous, because that's why I have doubt that Sato's going to win, because you have Furio with the ankle problem. You have Miyuki with this... He obviously has some ribs or something bruised or crushed or broken or something, and he's not tending to them, and it's just going to flare up. And I'm like, Sato, you'd think you'd learn. You think you'd learn by now, right? But Nori starts out episode 39 saying that he's greedy. He's greedy. He wants to pitch the slider, the sinker. He wants the sinker. He wants to pitch the sinker he's been working on. So there's a lot of talk about greed in these episodes, and I'm like, And then Sawamura wants to learn the two-seamer to fight against Raichi, and it's like, it's too soon. We're battling tomorrow. You can learn it later. And then Kuramochi knows everybody's injury. He's the one that guessed about Rio's injury. Now he knows about... I'm curious with that. If in the next episode or whatever, that Kuramochi is going to confront Miyuki and be like, look, I didn't say anything when Rio was injured, and we waited until the game and it ended badly. Or is Kuramochi going to step up this time and be like, no, we're going to talk to Kataoka now and get a play strategized so we could have this ready to go? That's what I'm curious. Kuramochi knows, so I'm like, Kuramochi, are you going to repeat before with Rio, or are you going to do something about it now and try to tell Miyuki to tell the coach? Because this team and their injuries, I swear. So the doctor said no, and at first Ochiai is like very like wishy-washy on this, because at first out loud out loud, Ochiai's like, oh, well, sometimes doctors over-exaggerate. Let's take him to my shady doctor who's going to approve everything. I'm like, but then in his head, he says, if this is a problem, it could flare up and cause a lot of problems later on. So it's like, which is it, right? So I do like the idea of starting. I can't believe they're starting with Nori, but it makes sense, right? One, Nori's riding off his confidence boost, pitching that one out. But whatever does it for you, Nori, whatever does it for you. And Yakushi is not as familiar with Nori, so he would be good for them to pitch against. They're not as familiar with him, so it would kind of maybe throw them off early on in the game. Nori's got a confidence boost, so it's good for that reason. And it's a very good strategy because it lets Kataoka and Ochiai feel out the game and say, okay, who do we want to throw in if Nori needs to be taken out? Do we want to put Sawamura in? Do we want to put Furuya in? And it keeps the team morale high, because this goes back to what Kataoka was telling Ochiai. He's like, yeah, there's a logical strategy, but there's also an emotional one too. If we say right off the bat that Furuya can't play, the team is going to automatically feel more pressure going into the game. They're going to be more stressed out, and they're going to be down in spirits. But if they know Furuya is an option, that their ace is an option, and you have the spirit of the ace there, then it'll keep the team together. And then we can decide later on, if things get tense, what to do. And I could see in this final game, I could see them play Nori for like 4 innings or something, bring Sawamura in, and maybe close with Furuya. Maybe close the game with Furuya. Let Sawamura pitch up until the 8th inning, and then just finish out with Furuya to keep the morale high. I could see them doing that kind of relay, because it's kind of like what Yakushi just did. Yakushi started out with Akiba and Mishima and finished out with Sanada, who is their ace. So I could see that strategy. Or I could see them do Nori and then Furuya for a couple innings, and then if his ankle starts to feel bad, then bring in Sawamura to close it. I could see it going either way. I think they'll use all 3 pitchers, though. I think Furuya is so intent on playing. Furuya, that's the one thing that I'm a little bit like Furuya, is when Furuya's like, I will pitch. And telling the coach that, I'm like, I get it, you're the ace, and you're asserting yourself, but I'm like, at some point, I'm waiting for Kataoka to say, no, you're not, and to put him in his place. That's why I'm like, Furuya, I love you, but I'm just waiting for Kataoka or Ochiai to shut him down and be like, you don't get ahead of yourself. I'm just waiting for it to happen. It may not happen in this game. It may happen next year when they're second years, but I'm waiting for it. I'm like, Furuya, I like him like he is. I'm like, you don't need to get cocky, Furuya. Nobody needs that. But yeah, so, and then, Nori's going in with that confidence. Nabe time. I love Nabe time. I love they call it that. Our sniper. Nabe time. I love it. But Raichi's a pitcher. The hell? And if you noticed, in the pitching thing, the way he held the ball, he was holding it like Sawamura pitches. Like Sawamura pitched in middle school, he was holding like the full hand, he was pitching like that. It was like Sawamura. I was like, whoa! I kind of want to see Raichi pitch. I kind of want to see him pitch in this game, just to see how manic. The voice actor for Raichi, 90% of the time, is just laughing like a feral monster. And then we'll get to the end of this episode with him winning over my heart 1,000 times over. But Raichi pitching, terrifying. So I like that we have our captain and co-captain, and I like that we run the gambit. You have Zono. Zono is constantly confident, but when he has to speak in public, he's surprisingly timid, and he's like, we're gonna do great. Kuromochi seems like he's neutral, but then when he gets up there, he's like, kill them all. It's like, fits his delinquent status, right? And then Miyuki is too cool for school, the like inspirational speech, like the very, let's get him. But Miyuki, that injury, it bugs me. So apparently if they get to go to nationals, they can go to a winter camp, which is pretty cool. I like that we established that there's something to look forward to after this game, possibly. And then not 100% used to the routine. Kuromochi's not 100% used to Haruichi. I was like, looking at my handwriting, it's terrible. But yeah, so Ryo has that conversation with Kuromochi, and poor Haruichi, he hears that, and I'm like, oh, don't take it bad. It's like Kuromochi and him, they just haven't gelled yet. Not fully, right? But they're on their way to doing so. But Tetsu approving Furuya. saying that the ace number looks good on him. Like, Furuya went Super Saiyan in, like, this last episode, just so bursting with energy. And I think that Tetsu is like, yeah, you can do this. You're gonna be fine, right? Even though Tetsu wasn't the ace himself, he still, encourages him. I felt bad for Sawamura at the end of this episode because nobody was encouraging Sawamura. He was just like off in the shadows grumbling. I at least wanted Chris Senpai to go and give him some encouraging words, but he talks to Miyuki instead. And I was just waiting for Miyuki to be talking to Chris and realize, man, this guy that was on top of the world and had an injury ruin his whole high school career really need to kind of not follow in those footsteps. Anytime there's an injury in this show, I just get worried because we've been traumatized with Chris Senpai that I'm like, I just get worried. But then, okay, we cut to Yakushi for the rest of this episode, and my heart melted. First of all, though, Todoroki, the coach Todoroki, he knows his players, and he especially knows his son. And I like the idea that he's making Todoroki do the 500 swings. And because when they cut over to him, he's like, we got 200 swings left. But his strategy for it, he's like, I want Todoroki to get tired so he's not thinking about the strikeout. He's like, I don't want it on his mind. He's like, when my son thinks, bad things happen. So he's like, I just want my son to be simple. Don't worry about it. Don't let it get inside his head. And so that's an interesting strategy. But yeah, so we meet the other players of Yakushi. We meet them all like one by one. And I like that the third years come and Coach Todoroki has them tell their goals to the third years. I'm like, that's really cute. So Ryo Harada. Harada is the captain, not Sanada, which in hindsight, because back when y'all were commenting, I don't remember if it was on Patreon or YouTube, but there was a couple, maybe it was the start of season 2. I was like, oh, is Sanada the captain? And everybody was like, no, it's some other guy. And I'm like, really? But now in this set of episodes, since we've known a little bit more about Sanada, it makes sense. Sanada is pretty carefree, and Sanada does not like doing a lot of work. So with his carefree attitude, it would make sense he would not be a good choice to be captain. Instead, it goes to Harada, who Todoroki says is a planner that has his whole life mapped out until he's 50. So someone that's organized and can keep the team together organizationally makes sense that he's the captain. And I also love that he's like, well, making you a captain wasn't in your planner, was it? And Harada's like, it's thrown me off. And it's like, it's really cute. But having them tell the third years their goals. And then I like the one guy, he's like, I'm afraid of making an error. And Todoroki's like, no, get that mentality out of there. Make an error right off the bat so your nerves are gone. I really like Todoroki's coaching strategy because it's very genuine and very true to experience because he's a baseball player himself. And when he tells the guy, he's like, no, go ahead and make an error. Get it out of the way. Get your nerves out. Be like, shake it all out. Get it all out of the way now so you don't have to worry about it later. I'm like, I like that advice a lot. We established that Akiba is reliable. He's a reliable teammate. And Mishima wants to be like the double reliable guy, the guy that can do both. And then Raichi, our little monkey boy, when he's put on the spot and has to speak in front of the third years, becomes this shy, timid little boy. And I'm like, what? He's very opposite of Sawamura in that regard because Sawamura is so outwardly outgoing and expressive and talkative. And he's like, I'll say whatever and talk to anybody and be besties with anybody. And Raichi's super shy. And he doesn't know what to say. And I love that Todoroki is like, there's no in between with my son. He only knows of baseball. Anything else, it's like brain empty. Brain cell is only activated towards baseball, and that's it. He's like, if you put my son on the spot about anything else, he shuts down. He's going to be like, if he goes pro, Raichi's going to be like in Talladega Nights where Carl Naughton Jr. is like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And he's like, or Will Ferrell, he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And he's just like sitting there holding them like this. That's going to be Raichi. Raichi is not going to know how to do a sports interview. He's going to be like, we played good. Like one of those things. But the moment Sanada's like, you're so simple. You simple little banana eating minion. This is why I love you. He's like, I want to put forth the effort to make it to where you can keep batting and doing what you love. And it's like, my heart, y'all. I get it now. I get the ship. It all makes sense. It's the weirdest ship in history because you have Sanada, this too cool for school sports model who is the main pitcher and the ace. And then you have Raichi, this feral monkey kid that eats bananas all the time and only has one brain cell. But Sonata likes him because he's simple. He's like, you're pure and simple, and you're a spicy cinnamon bun. You're like a little, what am I trying to think of? It's like a spicy, it's like a Mexican dessert. And, what is it called? But it's like a churro. He's a churro! Raichi is a churro. He's got cinnamon. He's like a little cinnamon roll, sweet up, but he's spicy. He's a churro. That's what he is. And I like Todoroki saying that the effort, he hates the word effort, but when you're addicted to something, you put into the work without even realizing it. I like that. He's like, I don't want to tell you guys to just work hard every day. He's like, that's cliche. He's like, but if you get addicted to baseball, it won't feel like work. It'll just feel like you're doing something you're obsessed with and that you love. And he's like, we're the most obsessed with baseball. So we're the most addicted to it. So we deserve to win. And it's like, I love it. I love it. And then Raichi at the very end, the episode's called Meeting Expectations. And Raichi's like, I just want to meet my own expectations and do the best that I can for my team and bat as much as I can and get to see a bunch of pitchers. I can't fault Raichi. He's so damn pure. And Sonata is just so wholesome. So we're going into the finals. Y'all, we have 11 episodes left. 11 of this season. That's it. That's it. Games are usually 11 or 12 episodes. So it's the finals. This season's going to end with the finals. And seeing who goes to nationals or not. Damn. Okay. It's fine. It's fine, and I don't know who's going to win because it could be either team. This set of episodes has definitely set up that Sato has its own problems. They've, of course, got their own problems and complications that they're going into. Sato is definitely the underdog in this, I feel. Sato's the underdog. I feel they're going, Yakushi's going off 34 consecutive wins. They are not the underdogs. Yakushi is not the dark horse. They're the favorites, I'm sure. And Sato is the underdog in this because Sato has the most stacked against them right now, I feel. I feel like Yakushi's in the higher place, right? Oh my gosh, and I don't know what's going to happen. So it's anybody's game, right? So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. These episodes are so good. This whole season's been so good. This whole series has been so good. But I'm really excited to hear your thoughts down below as we go into this final matchup. Oh my God. So yeah, let's do this. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episodes 40, 41, and 42 of Ace of the Diamond. Bye.